Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And it's been a rough week for digital content. A few different things have happened on PlayStation that brings up some very important questions about the increasingly all-digital future. Do we really trust these companies with quote-unquote our purchase content? Do we really own it? Because right now, that doesn't really appear to be the case. So I want to go over that today and the latest situation that PlayStation finds themselves in. Then also, we got some new leaked details for currently an unannounced Xbox published game. I was a little bit hesitant when I first heard about this game, but now that we're hearing some details, it's actually starting to sound kind of interesting. So we will get into all of that as well. Before we get started, though, do make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way, every time I post a new video, it'll be delivered directly to your device. It's a great way to stay on top of the gaming news, as I am here every Monday through Friday. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with a brand new game that just released, being Born of Bread. Now, I've not really seen a lot of coverage for this game thus far, but I thought some of you all might be interested in it, so I thought I'd at least bring it to your attention. It is a Paper Mario-like RPG, if you like those type of games, and fans so far do seem to be really enjoying it. It has an 88% approval rating on Steam as of this recording. It is still very early on, though, and the two things that I keep hearing is that if you like Paper Mario, there's a good chance that you'll like Born of Bread, and it's just filled with charm and personality. Now, I've not played this game myself, so I can't personally recommend it, but if it is something that interests you, you can go ahead and wishlist it on Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, or even Nintendo. It is available everywhere, which is nice to see, and I do know that it's currently on sale on Steam for $22, or you can get it over on Fanatical for just $18. Again, if you like Paper Mario, maybe keep an eye on it as more reviews roll in. Now, speaking of reviews, though, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora will be out tomorrow on December 7th, and reviews are now rolling out ahead of time. It currently has a 74 overall score on Metacritic with 50+ reviews, and I mean, for a big AAA game like this, that might not necessarily be the results that fans were maybe hoping for. Granted, this still isn't necessarily a bad score either. From what I've gathered, the open world and its stunning environment brought to life is the star of the show here, and if that's what you were hoping for in an Avatar game, I mean, that is one of the main attractions, that's that beautiful world that they put together. If that's what you're looking for, then there's actually a chance that you'll very much enjoy this game. I mean, do keep in mind that 25 reviews did give it an 8 or above, and that's the thing that's always important to remember. Reviews are only opinions, and just because one person doesn't like the game and they gave it a low score doesn't mean that somebody else will. So despite the final score being a 74, there are drastically different opinions. Now, with that said, though, some of the complaints that I have seen is that its story isn't overly strong, nor is its characters, and even though the combat is solid, it does play kind of similar to a Far Cry game, but it's not necessarily amazing either. Its gameplay seemingly lacks variety. So I think my main takeaway from these reviews is that if you do like the world of Avatar, because again, you know, it has a beautiful world, it might be worth picking up. But if you don't care about the movies, then this game might not convince you otherwise. If anything, though, it will be available in Ubisoft Plus, so maybe if you're subscribed to that, this will be a fun game to try this holiday. Moving on, though, let's go and talk about this PlayStation situation, because not only has digital had a rough week, but PlayStation, they've had a rough week as well, because both of these situations are actually linked to PlayStation. So, you know, earlier this week, as we previously discussed, PlayStation sent out a notice to fans that their purchased Discovery content will be removed from their library on December 31st. Now, whether you want to blame PlayStation, Discovery, or maybe even both, I'll let you be the judge of all that. That's completely on you. But now, just a few days later, PlayStation is facing yet more backlash linked to digital purchases. See, what's happening here is that some PlayStation users are reporting that their PlayStation accounts are randomly being suspended permanently without reason. Now, it's hard to tell how widespread this issue is, but you can see posted up here by Michael. He sums up the situation pretty well. He said, without any notice, PlayStation permanently banned me from the PlayStation Network. No one knows why. I don't have a chargeback, I can't appeal, and no response to suspension status. Customer support says to create a new account and disconnected me. Now, a lot of people have responded to this post claiming that they're also dealing with a similar issue. And, I mean, it's bad enough that something like this has even happened at all. I know I've had my account since the PlayStation 3 days, and losing all my trophies, all my friends list, and, everything that's attached to my account, that's sickening enough on its own. But what makes this situation even worse is that if you buy your games digitally, if your account is suspended, you also lose all those digital purchases that are tied to your account. I mean, you have to realize that we now have digital-only consoles available. So that is the primary way for some people to purchase their games. But that is something that we're seeing in this case. The realization is starting to set in because if for whatever reason, if something happens to your account, let's say Sony decides that your account should be banned, well, they can take all those purchases away, as simple as that. There was actually also a situation with Xbox that happened earlier this year where this girl had her account stolen, and she was having a very hard time recovering it. Again, because all of her digital games were tied to her account, it wasn't just her account being stolen, but also the countless digital purchases that she made. Now, if you buy your games physically, though, you don't really have these same issues. I mean, sure, again, if your account gets banned, stolen, or whatever, that's not a fun experience on its own, but at least you can make a new account and keep your games that you purchased because, well, you actually own them. See, this is the same thing that I said a few days ago. When you buy something digitally, you aren't actually in control of said content. PlayStation and Discovery, they're making that crystal clear right now by pulling purchase content away from their customers. I do believe that there needs to be more regulations around this type of thing, but that's for a different topic. What I do know is that a question that often gets brought up with this topic is what will happen in the future when these companies inevitably shut down their stores or servers that keeps these games alive. Will these companies be nice enough to keep letting us download our purchased digital content or not? That's something that has to be asked because we don't actually control the content that we're purchasing. We're putting that control in these companies' hands. Nonetheless, though, the good news here is that reports are now coming in that the suspended PlayStation accounts are currently being recovered. Sony hasn't given us any kind of public update themselves. They're keeping this very hush-hush, but it looks like this is because some kind of error on their end. Now, I have seen some speculation that it could be linked to that hack that happened earlier this year, but that's really just all speculation for the time being. I'm not going to get into all of that today unless there's more that comes from it, but all we know in this situation is that it is currently being fixed, but still, I definitely think that this is another cautionary tale around digital media. Now, we do also have yet another leak to talk about today for Xbox. Apparently, they've just had a leaky week in general, but this is coming from Insider Gaming's Tom Henderson, and before we jump in, he did suggest that this will not be revealed at the Game Awards. So if you are trying to keep the Game Awards a surprise as much as possible, then no worries there. It doesn't appear to be linked. However, this is for seemingly a bizarre game that we actually heard about last year, Project Shaolin, which apparently is a Wu-Tang themed action RPG developed by Brass Lion and handled by Xbox Game Studios Publishing. I mean, when we first heard about this game, I was like, okay, I'm not really sure what to think about that. But Tom Henderson gave us some new details today, and it surprisingly sounds interesting. You can see here posted up by Clobril, he gave a pretty good summary. You can see the game is a third-person melee-oriented RPG. It features 4-player co-op. It involves the Wu-Tang Clan members themselves with the game's soundtrack and more. It features loot, unique combat abilities, etc. It has a focus on having both music and combat intertwined. All 9 Wu-Tang Clan members are also playable. It has a social hub named The Neighborhood. It'll have an animation style somewhat similar to Into the Spider-Verse, which I think that is actually very interesting there. It's visually bright, colorful, and has an anime-like art style. Players can explore the vast world freely, and currently it is in alpha development stage. So it'll probably be a little while before we get to play it ourselves, but based on this description, you know what it kind of sounds similar to? Hi-Fi Rush. I mean, both games are stylized, they're both third-person action games, and they both focus on intertwined combat with music. Now, it does sound like the Wu-Tang game is different outside of those things. It apparently will have a focus on 4-player co-op, and that does kind of make me think of a more arcade-like beat-em-up style game. Maybe this will have that arcade-like playstyle to it, but honestly, I mean, I had zero interest in this game before. I don't really listen to Wu-Tang or anything like that, but after hearing its description here, I'm oddly curious to see it now. It does actually sound kind of interesting. As some of you all might know, I adore Hi-Fi Rush. I think it's easily one of the best games this year, and in my opinion, it's also one of Xbox's best first-party games, just period. So if this Wu-Tang game has some similarities with Hi-Fi Rush, yeah, I absolutely want to see more. Now, I am still skeptical, though, and I'll remain that way until I see it firsthand, just because it is such a weird idea on paper to make a game based on Wu-Tang. It's even more surprising that Xbox, out of all companies, is publishing it, but hopefully it will make for a fun game, and if anything else, with the inclusion of Xbox Game Pass, we can just jump in that way and see for ourselves. Now, before I go, though, there is one more leak to talk about today. I'm unsure if this will be revealed at the Game Awards, so again, if you're trying to keep that showcase a surprise, you can go and skip to the next topic. I'll give you a moment for that. Okay, now we're going to go and continue on, but Bilbo Kuhn did leak a surprising remake. I know I certainly wasn't expecting this. I don't think many people were asking for it, but according to him, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons remake will be announced soon. Apparently 505 Games will be publishing it, and I'm curious to see what exactly they're planning to do with this, or what they're planning to change. The original title released back in 2013. I think that it's aged fairly well, and it's a dual-stick puzzle adventure where you control one brother with the left analog stick and then another with the right analog stick. I also remember it having a fairly solid story. It's been a long time since I've played it, but I do wonder if they're looking to make significant changes to transform it into something a little bit more grand. I mean, if that's the case, maybe it could make for an interesting remake, but I guess we'll see soon. Again, Bilbo Kuhn doesn't know if it'll actually be announced at the Game Awards or not. I'm assuming that it probably will, so just go and kind of keep an eye out for the Game Awards. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day. They were asked you all, do you think Nintendo will announce the Switch successor early in 2024? And actually, most of you all are expecting an early announcement. You know, I think the general consensus is that the Switch successor will be out at some point next year, and now it's really only a matter of when we see it ourselves. I think for me, Nintendo is kind of an unpredictable company. You know, they're not like Xbox and PlayStation. You can't just peg their next console to be a holiday release. They could release it at any point, and they could announce it at any point. But just coming from my own hope, I would like to see an announcement as early as possible. I don't know if they'll actually reveal it early in the year, but I keep saying it. I'm really excited for the Switch successor, and I'm ready to see what it's capable of. I'm ready for Nintendo games to get a big visual upgrade because we really haven't seen a big visual upgrade from them pretty much since the GameCube days. That's kind of hard to believe, but I'm really excited to see Nintendo's games like Pokemon, Zelda, Metroid, and all these other great games get a big visual upgrade. So I do hope you all are right on this one. I'd like to see that announcement early in the year, and for that matter, I'd like to see a release date early as well. Cross my fingers for that, but I'm not going to necessarily get my hopes up either. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.